Welcome back, and it's good to have you join us here on TV3Newday. We're going to be having a conversation about justice delivery system in the country, and even the fact that in our prisons we're told that it is choked and it's taking more people than we should be able to take. In fact, when you look at even the number of prisoners on remand from 2001 to 2021 per Statista, which gives all the records. It says that as of September 2021, there were 1,595 people in Ghanaian prisons who were remanded in custody. And, well, it was low in comparison to the full year of 2015, however. But even the fact that we still had quite a number of people still on remand. They've not been able to go through the justice system to really know and ascertain, the crime and, of course, the punishment. And that's even aside the number of people who are in prison for some petty offenses, but are still sharing the same space with other prisoners who are in there for murder and for other serious offenses. And you know that for many years now, we've been trying to pass, the Criminal Offences Act just to ensure that if you steal a goat, you will not go in there for 7 years, just like someone who may have committed a more, serious or injurious crime. And so that's the conversation we're having today, helping you to also understand the justice delivery system in the country and what you can do and the knowledge that you can acquire from it. Mr. Edmund Amakwe-Foley is the Director of Programs at the Institute for Human Rights and Development in Africa. He joins us via Zoom. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Bella, and good morning to all our wonderful viewers and listeners.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Also, Miss Esther D. Mate is a human rights advocate. She also joins us via Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning, Bella.
How are you?
Good morning. Fine, thank you. Good morning to your listeners as well.
Definitely. Let's start off with you, Esther, since you're here. I mean, maybe let me go to Mr. Makwe first and find out from him. When we say community service sentencing, what does that really mean?
Thank you very much, Bella. Community service sentencing is a type of sentence that is given by a court. In some circumstances, it may even be given still by a court, but at the time when a person has been arrested by the police, is awaiting trial. But it's a kind of sentence in which one does not go to prison. At the heart of punishment or sentencing in any criminal justice system is that a person is held accountable for his or her actions, which have gone against the law. Yes. When you do a community service sentence, then you are actually asked to perform certain duties for the benefit of the society as a form of reparation or atoning for what you have done. But in so doing, we also seek to ensure that you yourself are reformed. And so there are very many different types of community sentences that we have. Yeah. You might be asked to do certain specific hours of compulsory work. For example, you can be asked to clean, go and collect rubbish. You may even be asked to go and decorate, certain community spaces. You may also be asked to participate in certain specific activities, maybe undergoing a skills training. So if somebody who has, for instance, been engaged in all manner of, you could say, unproductive activities, then for which reason you are committing crime, you could be actually asked to undergo training. There are also behavioral change programs in community sentencing. So, for instance, if you have somebody who is abusive, could be asked to undergo anger management classes, or an alcohol abstinence program. There is also supervision by a probation officer or a police officer or a social worker. So this person will pay regular visits to you and evaluate your conduct and how you are actually changing your behavior. There's also one system that we find in some countries, electronic tagging, is also a form of community sentence, whereby you are asked not to leave a certain radius.
Yeah.
So by virtue of a court order, you are tagged. I mean, there's a band that will transmit geolocation wherever you are at any point in time.
Yeah.
So that if you leave the confines of where you are supposed to be or go to areas where you are prohibited, you will be dealt with. There are also what we call court-imposed curfews, where the court will ask you not to go out between certain hours. These are all types of community sentences that we have.
Okay, but we haven't gotten to the electronic, not yet.
Not yet.
When it comes to technology, we're still, growing gradually. But even when we talk about, community centers in the terms of weeding and, doing some community labor work, I mean, you'd see that there are some prisoners who have been sentenced to hard labor for a number of years. And over time, we see them come out and weed under the supervision of prison officers as well. I mean, that's almost close to, sentencing someone to community labor. How and why are we not getting to that point? Because I've seen Shraj, I've seen a number of institutions, even advocates for non-custodial sentences to be passed so that we can have someone who maybe stole a goods go and weed instead of having to go to prison, which is already choked, and of course, we're barely feeding them. There's barely space for them. Why are we not at that point yet?
Right. So a small distinction between what we often see on the streets, these persons who are weeding, clearing rubbish in prison attire, and community sentencing. Now, when people are sentenced in hard labor, if you look at our Criminal Offences Act, specifically looking at the sections relating to stealing, if you have, in simple terms, if there's somebody who is a habitual, thief, for want of a better expression, because the Act says if you've stolen once, you've been convicted, and again, then you are sentenced in hard labor. In fact, the Act says to a state farm to go and work. So the sentence in hard labor has a bit of a very retributive ring to it, in that we are seeking to confine you to work in a way that really is to, I don't know how best to describe it, but to punish you for you to feel it, as it were. In a community sentencing regime, yes, you are also going to feel it, but it's a bit of a softer approach where sometimes even you are a bit encouraged to undergo the program, as it were. So it's still a bit of a carrot and stick. Yes. There is also research that shows that, and the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative did that. I was happy to be part of that research, which shows that if you look at our amendments to our Criminal Offences Act, we have been very punitive as a society in our approach. So we are either increasing prison terms or increasing the gravity of offences. And so you could say that, yes, perhaps that has been our approach. But thankfully, we have also, as a country, always recognized the need to be more reformative in the way we approach crime. And we're going back way to the 70s. Some of our judges have indicated that, yes, the reformative aspect of punishment is something that Ghana subscribes to. And coming down to the current circumstances that we have, and you described the prison numbers, the population. Yes, it is very worrying. We need to deal with the high custodial rates that we have. Apart from that, when you mention petty offenses, we have a certain category of offenses where you have simply not done anything. They are what we call status offenses. Just being who you are. An example is being rogue and vagabond. What exactly is being rogue and vagabond, or being idle and disorderly? And you realize that it tends to catch a certain category of people. You and I, who would drive in our cars, and go about our business, are not likely to be caught by this provision. But just imagine any young man on the streets of Accra who may just even be looking for a job, or a young woman just going and knocking on people's doors, or standing at a street corner and maybe out of frustration just saying, to wait in tree, a rabbit, screaming. A police officer could approach the person and say, you are being disorderly. Because it also comes with a lot of discretion for law enforcement officers. But as a democratic country, we realize that, yes, some of these offenses must go away. Hence, the efforts have started. So apart from that campaign to decriminalize these type of offenses, take them off the statute books totally, we are also recognizing that there are certain offenses. Nobody is saying that when you steal, you should go scot-free. Yeah. Stealing, yes, definitely is wrong. But in Ghana, stealing is what we call a felony. Yeah. A second-degree felony, which means the least you could get for taking one banana or half a goat is 3 years. Now, if you look at the circumstance under which sometimes people commit these crimes, we're also seeing across the world what we call the criminalization of poverty.
Yeah.
People are simply stealing to eat, to survive.
Yeah.
We are not condoning that under any circumstance, but as a country, we are beginning to recognize that, yes, sometimes people commit, the level of the crime is so small that we need not send that person to prison. Hence the discussion around a community sentencing regime. If he has taken one banana, perhaps let him go back and plant a banana tree for the owner. Yes.
Okay, let me bring Esther in so we talk about the rights of these humans. And of course, based on the numbers that I've just put out concerning even those only on remand, because they say that you are not guilty until proven otherwise. And then we have those who may not have committed, you know, offenses that are as great as, let's say, murder, and yet they are in the same situation as those who may have committed such, you know, grievous crimes. Let's talk about how their human rights are being trampled upon, especially even for those on remand, and why it's important then for us to finally pass the non-custodial sentence so that we can give people the right kind of sentencing based on the crimes that they've committed.
Okay, so Bella, I want to add to your statistics that you provided. Our prisons are supposed to hold a total of 9,945. But as at June 2022, our prisons had the population of 14,444. That is 45.24% higher than it's supposed to be. So, looking at this evidence, you realize that at a glance, there is overcrowding in the prisons. Their right to dignity is something that will be trampled upon because they have the right to live in that space, that 6 meter space that is accorded them. But in Ghana, for every 10 meter space, we have 12 prisoners instead of 1. So you can see the gravity of this difference. Also, you realize that their right to health. A lot of communicable diseases are spread among the prisoners and even the prison officers. Yes, we hear of a lot of sexual abuses going on in our prisons, even in our prison, police station cells. And all these are infringements on their human rights as an individual. Community service sentencing, it's the way to go, as my colleague talked about its importance and its benefits. You realize that it reduces that repeated offenders and also reduces recidivism and also career criminals. So you have people who are not well experienced in, you know, committing crimes, but they go and come back, and that becomes their career path. They go and come back. 2 weeks ago, I was at the central prison at Tekum, and at the police station actually. And there was this gentleman who walked in. I think he's been caught for a crime, and the policeman really told him that, "Hey, Papa, what's under him?" You know, it's more like he's used to the place, and that was not the first time he had been there. So you realize that community service sentencing go a long way to reduce this kind of career criminals and repeated offenders in our prisons.
Yeah.
Again, when we speak...
Carry on.
Please go ahead. Yes. We also realize that this community service sentencing, it helps the offenders to pay back to the communities they are coming from. And also, it doesn't dissociate them from entirely their families. It also serves as a very great deterrent. Someone will commit a crime in Tamale and will be imprisoned in Sabon. There is no link. You are unable to trace that link. But somebody committed the crime at Kejetia, and the person is picking letters at Kejetia. You are able to directly connect that, well, if I should commit this crime, this is going to be the punishment. And it will deter me from doing that. It goes a long way to ensure that our punitive measures are more reformatory rather than punitive. And also, it's more of a proportional punishment that is given to the criminal. But,
I was just going to ask that, of course, if you think about it on the surface level, if I'm going to steal maybe banana, a bunch of that, and all I'll be asked to do is weed or, you know, clear the gutters, desilt the gutters and drains and stuff, I'll see that as, you know, very minimal. And so if I'm going to steal and that's what I'm going to be asked to do, why not? I'll constantly do that, because after all, I'm not going to go to prison. I'm not going to have to worry about feeding, where to sleep, and all of that. Do you think that this is going to serve as a real deterrence for people who may commit such crimes?
Well, let me just draw your attention to this, that the community service sentencing regime that we are advocating for, it's for punishment of offenders not more than 3 years.
Okay.
So based on the crime that you have committed, if it's a banana you have stolen, if it's the goat you have stolen, per the Criminal Code 1960, the judge will decide that, well, this is the punishment that is being meted out to you. So if it's a goat and you're supposed to get 5 years, then you don't qualify for it. So we are looking at punishments not more than 3 years.
Okay.
And these punishments are basically very petty offenses, extremely petty. Sometimes you have vehicular offenders, those who flout our traffic and vehicular laws. Again, for instance, let me give you an example. During the COVID, someone didn't wear a mask. You remember those days when we were at the lockdown and we were supposed to wear a mask. So the person didn't wear a mask and the person was charged. It was a misdemeanor for 6 months. Somebody like this, if the person is supposed to litter, you realize that the punishment is proportional to the crime. Yes, so these are the category of people we are looking at for the community service sentencing. So it is not just stealing, but it's just petty offenses.
I just gave that example as one of them because, of course, I remember that Mr. Makwe touched on even stealing, you know, one finger of banana. And that's why I was saying that let's just say that I stole that. Or a petty offense such as breaking or flouting, you know, the traffic rules. And I'm supposed to probably be jailed for some 6 months, but then I'm told that go and sweep, go and desilt the gutter. If I know that's the punishment and it's not going to be as punitive, and I'm using that subjectively, I don't mind committing the crime because I feel like, after all, I'm not going to jail. I'm just going to have to sweep the compound. People may see me, I may be embarrassed, but I can still commit this offense again. No?
Well, Bella, I don't think someone like you would want to be seen sweeping the whole of Makola and picking litters just for, you know, driving through a red light. Yeah. So one can argue, it's quite subjective. One can argue that it's not much of a deterrent. But I realize that the linkage between the community members seeing that indeed he committed this and this is his punishment. And we can see it. There is that closeness, that proximity to the crime and the punishment. You're able to see it. I think it serves a great deterrent because everybody has that, you know, wanting to shield themselves from embarrassment. Yes, so people would want to guard themselves from that. When you go to prison, rather, nobody sees you because they'll think you've traveled. Somebody can even say, oh, I traveled to the US and I'm back. You know, so there's that linkage, that proximity is missing.
Okay, let me bring Edmund back in. Sorry, you wanted to land on this?
Yes. I also wanted to say that, well, we realized that the government is only able to provide 1.80 cities to them for a day. Looking at the economic situation we are in the country, I wonder what the 1.8 can afford these prisoners. So when we have this community service sentencing, all those burden is taken away from the government instead of, you know, pushing that amount to the prisons. We can use that amount for other things, you know, our roads and other things. So economically, also it's to the benefit of the government. Also, the prisoner is assured that their right to economic well-being is not infringed on by the government.
I see.
They have provided the needed amounts.
Very fair points
for
there.
their well-being. Yeah.
Indeed. But Edmund, coming back to you. So, I mean, what are some of the standard practices that should guide Ghana in hopes of passing this community sentence, you know, law?
Right. Thank you very much. And that also feeds into just what Esther has said. It is not going to be that one banana you automatically are going to get a community sentence from the judge. Yeah. No, in fact, in best practice across the world, and let me even just take some African countries, South Africa has a good one. Kenya has a good system. First of all, accountability on the part of the accused person or the convicted person now. Yes, you must be responsible and accept that, yes, what you have done is wrong and you are willing to atone. Now also, the court will look at things like the circumstances of the case, your character and antecedent. So, like you're saying, if the person, and judges look at the demeanor of an accused person, if you come to court and yes, your attitude is, it's going to be a walkover, this is just 2 bananas this time, that will be taken into account. In the Ghanaian context also, part of the international best practice we want to follow is to actually have a social inquiry report.
Okay.
So the judge would only proceed on the basis of a social inquiry report. A social inquiry report simply is usually prepared by a social worker. The Department of Social Welfare is currently doing it in so many other cases involving children, cases in marital proceedings, and all of that. Yes, that report essentially would tell the judge who you are, your circumstances, even the circumstance under which you committed the crime. And then again, international best practice would require that, and that's also something that we are considering in our own community sentence bill currently. The judge will look at factors like the need to protect the public.
Okay. The
judge will look at the prevalence of the offense in question. So yes, if many people are taking 1 banana, the court has a responsibility as a just part of the justice system to also look at preventive measures. So perhaps you might not get a community sentence order because the judge would want to make a point to society that this 1 banana, 1 goat business must stop. The likelihood of reform and rehabilitation of you, the convicted person, and again, as you indicated, if you're a habitual convict, all these things will be taken into account. Then, as Esther said, does the community even understand what the person is going to do? And would the community also accept the reparation that you are going to offer as a convicted person? So yes, currently the draft bill that we have worked in all of these. And we are also looking at supporting the justice system with a national agency that would manage community sentence processes. Okay. Because you're going to need supervision, yes. You're going to need supervision of persons who are on community service orders. And that would require that, yes, we actually have some added human resource capacity.
Are you there? Okay, sorry, I thought I lost you. So in that case, if we're talking about this bill, of course it has to go to Parliament, it has to be passed.
Yes.
Parliament is a major stakeholder. The Interior Ministry is another major stakeholder. What really do you need them to do to advance this cause? And if eventually it is passed into law, how do they, or what do you expect them to do to sustain and further improve it?
Yes, the Interior Minister is a very good senior of mine. I think this process has been ongoing since 2014. And Justice has done quite a lot of work. I know the Attorney General's Department has got the draft done. So we really need the Interior Ministry to table this because they are the main line ministry responsible for this bill. Since 2014, this has still been on the drawing board. So we really would be happy if the Interior Ministry pushes this forward. Even before that, from my own research, I'm reliably informed, going way back to 2003, the Ghana Law Reform Commission actually did some work on community sentencing options in Ghana. So definitely, it's really long overdue. So to my venerable senior, I would hope that this would be really pushed within the next parliamentary sessions coming up, so that we can get this off the ground. I mean, kudos to the Interior Ministry, of course, working together with the Attorney General's office. We have the plea bargaining act now. The president has assented to it. The Criminal Offences Act itself is undergoing some amendments. So definitely, yes, there are steps, but we need this to get off the ground to deal with the numbers that my sister Esther has referred to.
Esther, are we moving at a snail pace? And when we look at actually passing this into law, because not just this party in power or government, but this started, what, as far back as 2014. And so we've had two governments who were expected to have passed, this law, and still that doesn't happen. And you are, a human rights advocate. When we talk about the human rights of these citizens as well, does it mean that we really are not bothered about what they are going through, which is why we've not been able to pass this into law? Esther, are you there? Hello, Esther?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, hello, Beth.
Did you hear me earlier?
Yes, I did.
Carry on.
I did. Yes, I would not say that we are not bothered, but it looks like it's not really on our priority list, and is an issue. That is an issue. But it is good that we have this advocacy ongoing, and that we are bringing it to the front burner of national discourse. So it's really a good thing, that a good place where we are in. As my senior colleague mentioned, we are calling on the Ministry of Interior to expedite action on this process. As he mentioned, it began a long way ago, from 2003, actively being worked on 2014, where we are hoping that this bill is sent to Parliament as soon as possible. This draft is sent to Parliament to become a bill, so that at least it becomes a public document for all stakeholders, relevant stakeholders, to achieve it, so we can get a good law at the long run. So I will not say that really we are not pushing for it, but I am hoping that it becomes a priority. We really expedite our actions. All stakeholders get on board: civil society, the clergy, the traditional leaders, our prison officers, our police officers, and even the media. Very key, getting on board to ensure that this particular option, that's a community service sentencing option, becomes a law. And I know it's going to help a whole lot. It's going to help our immediate families, because if you have a brother or someone who is in jail for a petty offense, you will not want the person to become a hardened criminal when they are they come back. So it's going to help our families, going to help our community. Ideally, for these options we are mentioning, you will see that cleanliness of the community is going to be paramount. If you are going to weed, you're going to litter, you're going to pick letters, you're going to sweep. It's going to help. Again, even manual labor in constructing school buildings. We would get it for free, paid labor, because it's part of the options. Yes, and all in all, it will ensure national development. So I think this is a very good thing that we are all advocating for.
All right.
We should ensure that it is passed into law.
Thank you so much.
In the very shortest possible time. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Esther D. Mates, a human rights advocate, and Mr. Edmund Amakwe Foley is the Director of Programs at the Institute of Human Rights and Development in Africa, and they've been speaking with me this morning. It's been a pleasure. Let's take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll delve into some entertainment. This is TV3 New Day. Keep watching.